Hi, this is Evelyn. I was sitting here doing some early morning reading, and what I was reading brought actually was something from the Bible, the Christian, the Bible, and it what I came across sent my mind to something that I read in the news for this day, and it made me wonder about where we are, how far we've come, or how far we've fallen back. And let me just read what I was reading, and then I'll tell you what it brought to mind. I'm reading from 1 Kings, 19th chapter, 4 through 8 verse, and this is an account where Elijah is on the run. He's running from Jezebel, who wants to kill him. And Elijah is running, and he comes to this place, and he is tired. So he gives up. He wants to give up, and he asks God to ask God that he might die. Elijah went on a day's journey into the wilderness and came and sat down under a solitary broom tree. He asked that he might die. It is enough now, O God, O Lord. Take away my life, for I am no better than my ancestors. Then he lay down under the broom tree and fell asleep. Suddenly an angel touched him and said, "Get up and eat." He looked, and there at his head was a cake baked on hot stones and a jar of water. He ate and drank and lay down again. The angel of the Lord came again, touched him and said, "Get up and eat, otherwise the journey will be too much for you." He got up and ate. Then he went in strength of that food 40 days and 40 nights. Get up and eat, otherwise the journey will be too much for you. When I read that, my mind immediately went to a news article about a young girl who was 15 cents short of having her lunch fee at school, and the lunchroom worker tossed the food in the garbage and did not let the child eat. When I read that, I was horrified. 15 cents? Why would you let a child go hungry for lack of 15 cents? And then I thought about it. There are certain states now that have actually legislated that it is now against the law for the schools to refuse the child a meal and to shame the child because he or she cannot pay for the meal. Why, in 2018, are we having to legislate feeding a child? And how are these schools expecting children to sit in classrooms all day long with no meals? Some children actually come from home without having eaten breakfast, and then to go to lunch and not eat a lunch. So they're all day long without food. Imagine yourself in that situation. And I wonder, why couldn't these lunchroom workers who are tossing this food or taking food away from these children because they don't have the ability to pay, Where is the compassion in their heart? Get up and eat. Because if you don't, your journey will be too hard. Or you may not be able to finish your journey. At a certain point of hunger, I can't think, or I can't think right. I guess that's right. But can you imagine a child hungry all day long and expected to sit in a classroom and digest what is being presented to them and actually learn something? Why are we, who call ourselves a Christian nation, not feeding children because they don't have the ability to pay? In 2 Corinthians, before I go there, just a pointer about understanding, how to get understanding about what you read. When you read, if you ask yourself, who is speaking, who is talking, and to whom are they talking? And then the third question would be, about what are you talking, or are they speaking? If you can answer those three questions, this will go a long way to help you understand what's going on in the passage. Now, 2 Corinthians has to do with giving. And it's talking about giving justly. And it's talking also about the fact that you're giving. It's talking to the church. You are giving to be able to help the needy. You're not giving to provide a luxury lifestyle for a pastor or to build elaborate buildings. That's not what it's for. You're giving to be able to help the needy. And it says you're giving out of what you have to help them now, so that when things are reversed, they in turn will be able to help you. 2 Corinthians chapter 8, verses 7 through 15. But since you excel in everything, in faith, in speech, in knowledge, in complete earnestness, and in the love we have kindled in you, see that you also excel in this grace of giving. I am not commanding you. Now, who is the I here? I am not commanding you, but I want to test the sincerity of your love by comparing it with the earnestness of others. For you know the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, that though he was rich, yet for your sakes he became poor, that ye through his poverty might become rich. And here in my judgment, and here is my judgment. Now, whose judgment? And here is my judgment about what is best for you in this matter. Last year, you were the first not only to give, but also to have the desire to do so. Now finish this work so that your eager willingness to do it may be matched by your completion of it, according to your means. For if the willingness is there, the gift is acceptable, according to what one has, not according to what one does not have. Our desire is not that others might be relieved while you are hard pressed, but that there might be equality. At the present time, your plenty will supply what they need, so that in turn, their plenty will supply what you need. The goal is equality. As it is written, the one who gathered much did not have too much. The one who gathered little did not have too little. And in this last sentence, where is it written? In this case, it is written in Exodus 16th chapter, 16 through the 18th verse. Now going back up to verse 8 where it says, I am not commanding you. Who? Who is not commanding you? In this case, it's Paul. Paul is commanding the church at Corinth. He says, I am not commanding you. He's talking to the church at Corinth. I am not commanding you. And in verse 10 again, here is my judgment. And again, it's talking about Paul. It's his judgment. And he goes on to say, it's not his desire that others may be relieved and you are hard pressed. He says to them, you are going to give according to what one has and not what you don't have. And that's one of the problems in our churches today. Our churches are asking our people to give till it hurts, to go to extreme measures, to deny themselves their basic human needs. Some people take their house notes or their rent payment and their utility payments and their medical payments, the needs for their medical payments, and they're giving it to the church so that their leaders, their church leaders, their pastors can be can dress in the finest dress and drive the finest cars, live in big houses and all that. And that's not what it's for. It's not for him. This giving is talking about the giving that is there in order that you help the needy, those who need. And it says you help them according to your will. And if you don't have it, but you have the willingness to give, that too is fine. If you have the willingness, but you don't have the means, it is as if you gave the gift because you had the desire to do so. But oftentimes in our churches, we're made to feel guilty if we just don't have it. And I know in some cases, especially with the elderly in the church, and they are so wanting to do what they think is being asked of them in the church that they will deny themselves, down to the point of putting their health in jeopardy by giving to the church rather than buy their medications. That's not what is ever asked of us. And in the last portion there where it says that as it is written, the one who gathered much did not have too much, and the one who gathered little did not have too little. That's in Exodus. And what it's talking about is when God told Moses to tell the people to go out and get what they need talking about food now, they were instructed to get, I think what is the equivalent of 2 quarts of food for each person that is in their household. So those with many people got got many or several portions that were 2 quarts for each person that was in the house. So they got a lot. But those with small households, they got their 2 quarts per person, but it was not equal in number as what the largest household got, but it was equal according to need. The larger households had more because they needed more. And the Bible said that those who had gathered much didn't have too much, and those who had gathered little didn't have too little. They had what was needed. Now there was an instance where they disobeyed and they went out and gathered much more than they needed for that day, and it spoiled. The worms ate it, so it didn't do them any good to be greedy. Get what you need. But the thing that I thought about when I was reading these, my mind was on those children, and there have been several, in addition to the young girl from Florida who was denied her meal because she didn't have 15 cents. There have been several others over the years that this has happened to, in recent years, where children have been denied food, and to the point that now states are actually legislating it. But we don't have to wait for states to do this. These schools are within our communities. So why couldn't we, before those doors open at the beginning of the year, find out what type of provision the school has in place for students who don't have enough money for their meals? Some schools are feeding the children breakfast and lunch at no cost to any one of them. But within your community, why not go to the school, find their policy or what provision they have for students who are not able to pay, and perhaps take that on and give to a fund so that no child is shamed and no child is left hungry in this great land of plenty, the United States of America. Just something that was on my mind. Thank you for joining me.